When you see what's going on in our country right now, there are plenty of reasons to be concerned. Social unrest is making life very uncomfortable, and it could quickly get worse. On top of that, a second wave of CV-19 through the Dem agenda is threatening to devastate our economy and our way of life. Are we going to have severe food shortages this time? Will supply chains get cut off if people can't work? What if we can't go to the grocery store anymore? Well, these are realistic dangers, so don't let yourself be unprepared. Here's what to do right now. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and start building your emergency food supply. The experts at My Patriot Supply are the only people I use and trust, and you can too. And right now you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious meals the whole family will love. My Patriot Supply makes it easy to be prepared at all times, and saving $100 off a life-saving 4-week supply of food is too good an opportunity to pass up, because the second half of 2020 is going to be wild. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and get ready now. That's preparewithredpill78.com. Do it now, because when you support my sponsors, you support this channel.
Oh, Red Pill, it's great to be here. It's great to be with you. I'm doing awesome. I'm actually busy sharing the show out across all the multiple social media channels that we are all on now, because there's so many more, thank God, coming up the pike to give us a little bit of liberation from some of the speech cartel. But it's great to be with you always. And your audience is amazing. All right. Well, you know what? We'll figure it out. This is what happens when it's live. It's legit. This kind of stuff happens all the time. In the meantime, I'll just talk to your chat, see what's going on up there. Yeah, no worries. No worries. How's everybody doing tonight? Look at you guys. The chat is flying. I'm trying to keep up here. Okay, finally slowed down a little bit. This is awesome. You have a lot of mods. I'm looking here. You have a lot of people showing up tonight. Hey, Christopher Rodwell. Can you hear Red Pill yet? Can't hear you. Hi, Ann. Hey, Lickety Split. Maybe unplug your UBS cable and plug it back in. Sometimes you get a little extra static in there. Hey, Alan Campbell. Hey, Ed, Ella, TH, SPN, Kip True, Redeemed Patriot, Charlie Fraley, Melinda Goodman, Todd Liu, Jimmy Riggin. Saying hi to everybody in the chat. I love this. This is awesome. Hey, Von Z, it's so hard sometimes because I'm not that good at being able to read chat at the same time when I'm live broadcasting. I have to usually stop and go and read. Some people are really good at doing both. I'm lucky if I can walk and talk and chew gum. Just ask my family. Oh, sure. Okay, no problem. Hey, everybody. Red Pill's going to restart his computer, so we're going to end the stream and we'll be back here shortly. He's just going to give it a quick reboot. Be right back.
Testing, 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 testing. Can you guys hear me? No. Am I coming through? Is it working? Can you guys hear me? Can you freaking hear me? 5x5. Lord Jesus, why? Why tonight? Mute gate. Anne, okay, sent already. Oh, you guys, I swear I wasn't muted. You don't know how frustrating this is. Everything was on. My levels were up. Everything was good. Now you hear me? Oh, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the deal is. Anyways, I don't know what you heard before, but Anne Vandersteel is going to be joining us tonight. I'm very pleased that she's finally able to join me on the show. We are going to be talking about a harrowing story, a father looking to be reunited with his children. There are going to be disturbing elements to this show tonight, you guys. So what I need you to do is just to make sure that you are cognizant of that. If there are children that are going to be watching, there will definitely be things that I wouldn't feel comfortable having my children listen to. So I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. If you or someone you know is a victim of crimes against children, hold on. No, I sent a new email with new Zoom in the title. Okay. Anne is trying to get the Zoom link pulled up right now. Yeah, if your screen is not synced, refresh. Okay. Anyways, we are going to be talking about some disturbing things tonight. If you or someone you know is a victim of crimes against children, this is going to be something that's going to be difficult to hear. I just want to make sure, no, D. Reitmer, it's not exactly what you think. This is an international story. Oh, and now Anne's new link has not arrived yet. This is an international story, okay? It has to do with the US State Department. It has to do with the Swiss authorities. This is not your average, everyday American CPS story. This is an international story, and it's very tragic. So, all right. Anne, if you can hear me, go ahead and just refresh your email. It should be there. I sent it a couple minutes ago before I went live. And I would imagine Anne is going to be with us at any moment. All right, you guys. I also want to let you know that I did figure out how to set something up. So if you donate on PayPal, it should show up on the screen in the same way that Super Chats used to. It'll show up in the upper left-hand corner right there. No one has sent a donation yet, so I don't know if it's working or not. Hold on. I need to send Anne the information. Hang on. Let's see here. There you go, Anne. Okay. If you want to donate on PayPal, it's paypal.me/redpill78news. And you can always donate through the Cash App as well. No sound. People must be at the very beginning of the stream. I'm not going to be paying attention to any no sound things tonight. Not going to be pressing mute. I haven't been pressing mute, you guys. I think something must be wrong with my computer. The only problem is that there is no one available to work on it, considering the global pandemic that we find ourselves in. All right, and Anne has joined us. There you are. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, MuteGate 2.0. Anne, welcome to the program. Glad we finally got in about 15 minutes late. So, please, Anne, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I used to be one of the hosts on Your Voice America. It's where I got my start in podcasting back in 2016. And then I launched my show in 2018 called Steel Truth, and then broke off from Your Voice America and just went solo on this show now for the last couple of years. It's been a blast. I started out as a weekly show, became daily, and I recently partnered with producer Liz of The Dilly Show, and she helps me take this show now 5 nights a week on an amazing platform, and we have an amazing sponsor over at rightsocial.net, which is one of the newer social media companies that's not trying to be like Twitter or Facebook, but it's sort of a standalone, more engaging platform where you can do a lot there and you're not limited by character count. and we are just really rocking and rolling now. So we're having a blast, and I've just had the blessing of getting some amazing guests over the past 5 years of doing this, or 4 years or whatever doing this, and it's just, never look back. Never look back. Get to meet amazing people like you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's great. And the feeling is mutual. And were you a professional broadcaster prior to getting involved with this? Because, I mean, you've got the look, the poise, your voice is wonderful. I've always wondered if perhaps you started out in news, like on a regular channel or something.
No, never started out, not in the fake news area. In fact, when I went to school at University of Colorado in Boulder, I studied journalism. And at that time, MTV was off the ground and they were just getting cable going. And I saw what was happening. I said, there's no way I could work for any of those schlubs. They're just too far left for me. So I avoided the whole thing. I did work in communications. I worked for Cellular One, and I was actually part of the team that launched the grandfather for the smartphone back when Netscape IPO'd. I was really young, whippersnapper. So did really well in that world. And then, the rest is history. Started doing this because I felt compelled when Mr. Trump decided to run for president, that I did work for him back in 1990, 91 in West Palm Beach. And I said, he'd be an amazing president back then. I said, if he ever runs, I want to help him. And sure enough, he came on the scene and said, I'm in, I'll figure out what I'm going to do. And here I am.
How awesome is that? What was your experience like working for the president? I mean, how well did you know him?
Well, gosh, there's so many funny stories, but we worked for he has a building called Trump Plaza down in West Palm Beach. It's two beautiful white tall buildings, and I was in charge of basically like the Cal Friday, but I supported sales and leasing, and I worked directly for the general manager, a very nice lady, Jennifer Tennant. And we reported to his New York office to a lady named Blanche Sprague. She was tough, but when Mr. Trump would come in, he would come in weekly during season when he was down at his Mar-a-Lago estate. He always came in. The employees loved him. He was always very gracious, and he came up to the all-female sales office, and he would stand there. He would ask a couple of questions, and then he would just be quiet and listen. And one of the things that struck me, being a communications major, was his body language, because I'm really into body language, and his ability to make eye contact and just really listen to what the employees were saying and respond with a follow-up question as if he really heard you, because he was listening. But he allowed people to talk. And that to me has always been the sign of a great leader, when you don't have to do all the talking. And I said, gosh, he'd be an amazing president. And look where we are, 30 years later.
He has done an incredible job, that's for sure. Well, that's really awesome that you got the opportunity to get that experience all the way back then. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Neil and the situation with Neil. Who is Neil? He's a father who has lost his children in some fashion, but it's way deeper than that at the surface level.
Well, here's the very quick 30-second elevator pitch cliff note version of the Suits case. And this is what I really want the audience to take back. And, as an action item for what I hope happens after this, is that what we can do is light up the switchboard at the Secretary of State's office, Mike Pompeo's office, and Attorney General Barr's office. If you want to pick one, call one. If you want to call them both, God bless you. It doesn't take much to make the phone call. But here's an American family who decided to go and live in Switzerland. The father has dual citizenship, and there was reasons for that. We'll get to that later. But within 3 weeks of being there, the mother became very ill and was hospitalized, and CPS came and took the boys away from the father. Now, these are all Americans. The father, if you have a CPS situation, I understand that. But in this case, the father went to the embassy for help, the United States Embassy, and they were told this is a Swiss matter. And he said, but we're American citizens. This is why you have an embassy in the country. They refused to help him. They dismissed it. And he then sued the embassy employees in a federal court, and it was dismissed immediately. So he's gotten no help. There's a lot of people that have been made aware of this case in the past 3 years. And Mr. Suits has stayed there behind in Switzerland in the hopes to get his kids back. So really what needs to happen is a phone call can be made to the US Embassy in Switzerland that says, you tell the people in Switzerland to give these kids back to Mr. Suits. If there's really and truly a problem that needs to be resolved, it can be resolved in America or somewhere else. But Mr. Suits is entitled to his children, and Switzerland doesn't get to intervene. These are Americans, and they belong with their American family, and they should be dealt with in American, facilities at home. So that's, in a sense, what needs to happen. It's been ongoing, and there's a lot of reasons for it. So we'll get to that.
Yeah. So how did it start? I mean, and first of all, it's extremely shocking to me that that Neil is unable to get any assistance from either the Swiss government or the American government, especially considering the fact that he's a dual citizen. You know, you would think almost that he would have more access to government services because he is legally a citizen of both countries.
You would think that, but in fact, that's not the case. His mother grew up not far from where he is now, and it's really a tragedy what's going on, because he is treated like a hostile criminal. There's actually a repoll out for him. So every time he leaves where he's at, he gets stopped regularly. He's been hauled into the police office several times and questioned for several hours. And he's not doing anything wrong, except he's trying to advocate and fight for his kids. He's never broken one law while he's been there, but they are trying to push his buttons and treat him in such a fashion that any normal person would have responded and done something potentially criminal at this point, or at least lashed out in such a fashion that could be considered criminal. Switzerland is a socialist country, so they have, there's curfews and all this other stuff, things that for freedoms we take for granted here, they actually don't have in Switzerland. So he's not allowed to wander around in the middle of the night and pick up a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m. He can't do these things. So he's really been very respectful of the laws, but they are doing everything they can to provoke him to the point where they are hoping he will break the law so they can have him arrested or whatever it is they want to do. He has been limited his access to his children, and they actually alienated his parental rights back in December of last year. They severed them. Now, I don't know how a foreign country can sever your parental rights when in fact you have gone to the embassy and proven you were innocent of the charges with very valid documentation that says you were not the things that they're claiming you to be. And again, it's being neglected not only by the embassy, but by people here in the United States. They've turned a blind eye, and it makes absolutely it makes no sense until you understand the bigger story.
What is the status of his children? Are they considered American citizens, or do they also have dual citizenship with Switzerland?
Yeah, one of his children, his youngest has dual citizenship, but his oldest is an American citizen, and his oldest is actually his stepson. That's their mother's son. They are no longer married anymore. She unfortunately is suffering from severe mental illness and was returned to the States, where she's currently at her stepfather's house, from what I understand. But the stepson, who considers Neil daddy, and their biological son, the youngest, who's also being held there as well. He is also dual citizenship. So you have the stepson, which is American. You have the full blood son, which is dual citizenship like Neil. But again, they're Americans. It doesn't matter. You go to an embassy, you get help. They help your problem. If there's truly some kind of real issue, the American embassy should step in and handle it, and/or send you home and let the authorities in the United States handle it if it's truly a CPS concern. But that's not what's going on, is it? They're trying to get the kids out of Switzerland, return to the mother's home, to the step parents of the mother. And there's a reason for that, and it's very insidious.
Let's before we talk about that, what are the actual crimes that Neil is accused of in order for the Swiss authorities to remove his parental rights?
In a sense, they're claiming he's crazy. They've claimed he's crazy because he's been accused of being crazy, and he's accused of being a pedophile himself, of which all those allegations are not only not true, but they were proven to be not true. You see, Neil has level 1 fingerprint clearance from DPS in Arizona. And he received this clearance after he had been accused of pedophilic behavior. But in fact, what was happening was the behavior he was accused of is exactly what his stepfather is guilty of. And it is documented on videotape. And that's the reason, the projection, because the stepfather, who is the great grandson of the prophet, the original prophet of the Mormon church, is a very high ranking member, obviously, in the Mormon church. And this person there's videographic evidence of him committing pedophilic behavior with Neil's ex-wife's nephew, a 13-year-old boy. And this is the crime that they were trying to project on Neil. It was dispelled. Obviously, the Department of Children and Family Services in Arizona was involved. It was proven to be a false allegation. And subsequent to that, Neil received level 1 fingerprint clearance. They don't give that to somebody who's, a pedophile. right?
What does that exactly mean, level 1 fingerprint clearance?
He was given level 1 fingerprint clearance to get access to very highly, sensitive information. So
it's a security clearance.
It's a security clearance, exactly.
Okay, all right. So what is the situation with that family? I mean, how did this all start out? Was there something that Neil noticed? There was some aberrant behavior with the children? He could tell that they were being abused?
In Switzerland?
Well,
yes.
in the United States, before they even went to Switzerland.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. When they were living in the United States, they were living in Arizona. His wife, his name is, or ex-wife now, Courtney Creamer, is the daughter of the Creamer family, which is a very prominent Mormon family that they own the largest charter schools, I should say, in the state of Arizona, funded also in part by the Romney family. And her mother was divorced, married Robert Grant Bradford, who I just told you was the great-grandson of the original prophet of the Mormon Church. And between Mr. Bradford and Mr. Creamer, her father, biological father, and her brother, Damian Creamer, according to Neil and Courtney, she was sexually abused by her family, her biological family. She witnessed on a cell phone video that her mother took her nephew being sexually abused by her stepfather. That's when Neil decided it was time to take the family and move far, far away. So he took his wife and 2 children to Switzerland.
Before we continue, who was taking the footage of the molestation?
Courtney's mother.
Courtney's mother. And why? It boggles my mind as to why that would be something you would want to document and then spread around. I mean, was there any reasoning given for anything there?
No, I don't believe it was to be spread around. I think the video was uncovered, was accidentally uncovered. I don't think that was to be published at all. But it was discovered by Courtney, and when Neil found out about it, it was said, okay, we've got to go. We can't be around your family or your step family. There's something really evil going on here.
Sinister.
So he sinister, exactly. And the children were very small. They're now 6 and 10, but then they were 3 and 6, and so he got the family, moved to Geneva because he had dual citizenship and thought he could get far away from both her real family and her biological family and her stepfather to protect his family. That was the whole purpose of it.
Well, I think for a lot of people, moving to Switzerland sounds like an extreme move to take. I mean, why wouldn't he just go to the police or some authority in Arizona? Is it simply based upon the power that family holds within the Mormon Church?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to pull something up here because I want to just make sure I capture this exactly verbatim. I have to say one thing that Neil Suits has done is he's done an incredible job of documenting information with respect to who these individuals are so that, and it's been published. He has a very comprehensive website on all of this. Hang on one second. So just so you understand the power of the Mormon Church, and this is, I don't want to be disparaging of the entire Mormon Church. These individuals inside the church. Let's not just single out the whole Mormon Church, but these individuals, okay? Robert Grant Bradford was actually involved in an assassination attempt of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And in February of 2019, the Gilbert police in Arizona, their body cam where his ex-wife was last seen or heard from, when she tried to tell the police that her actual stepfather, Robert Grant Bradford, was involved not only as a pedophile, but he was also the guy who tried to assassinate Joe Arpaio. And she was also telling the police everything they were doing was wrong. This was something that he was not only involved in, but it was documented that his weapon traced back to Robert Grant Bradford. So can you say he tried to assassinate Joe Arpaio? No. But did he have some connection to it? Yes. And it was all dismissed, just like when the body cam footage was presented that, she's claiming her stepfather sexually assaulted the 13-year-old nephew. She got hauled off to a mental institution to somewhere else, and it was never investigated. Nothing was ever done. So they have the power to make things go away, but they also have the power to communicate, and it's documented in emails that I have with the embassy and with the Swiss CPS to make sure that Neil Suits doesn't get his children back. And they're coordinating with the embassy to try and get the children back from Switzerland away from Neil Suits and brought back to the Bradford family, which is very disconcerting when you consider that there's video footage of Mr. Bradford with a 13-year-old naked in a bathtub. It's just extremely disconcerting.
So, does that video exist somewhere for Neil to reference back to, or is it only just by recollection?
Nope, it exists. And from what I understand, I don't know where all the locations it is, but I understand from Neil Stutz that it exists in multiple locations. In fact, he's got so much information that's damning on all of this stuff. He has, I don't want to call it a kill switch, but he has things set up so that if something happens to him, it goes live on a server so that the world can see. So he's protecting himself because the information is so important, and he's not getting any help from anybody. So this is a very, very serious situation. And then unfortunately, I don't believe our president is aware of this, and I don't believe Secretary Pompeo or AG Barr is aware of this, but we need them to become aware of it because it is such a simple thing. Just like that lady in Honduras that the president referenced when General Milley and the operation to Venezuela happened early on during the beginning of the pandemic. This is something that a phone call can be made, and this can be sorted out really, really quickly. But for whatever reason, that information is not getting up to the proper authorities to make that one simple phone call. In fact, Colette Ford, who works for Attorney General Barr, is aware of this, and she actually is not passing the information on. She told Mr. Stutz that he was very brave to go against these kinds of people. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you're so brave to go? What does that mean? Why wouldn't you just say, let me tell Attorney General Barr, we'll look into it. Let me take your information. I'll pass it up. We'll look into it. It seems to stop. Every time it gets this close, it just stops. Why is that?
And what is Neil's website so that I can pull it up and then pass that information to the audience?
It's screamsofsilence.is. Scream of silence.is. Okay. Sorry, my bad.
No problem. Okay, screamofsilence.is. Nothing is pulling up for me when I go to it.
Oh, he may have taken it down. Let me see.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible.
Yep. No, he did. He took it down. All right. He did take it down.
All right. So let's go back to the timeline. So Neil discovers that there is some abuse taking place in his then wife's family with his children and other children as well. They decide to go to Switzerland. And what happens when they go to Switzerland?
So they're in Switzerland. I think it's about 2, maybe 3 weeks. And she has the wife, Courtney, has a nervous breakdown. I think it just all becomes the trauma she suffered as a child and the realization that her mother was involved in filming her stepfather with her nephew. I think it was just a lot of stress. And then, of course, relocating to a foreign country because you're running from something so horrific. I can't even imagine what that poor woman must have felt like. But my heart goes out to her because that's a horrific life to have lived up to that point. And the videos I've seen and heard her voice, I hear the fear and the pain and suffering. She doesn't sound like an angry person. She sounds like a very sweet woman, and she's just suffered a lot. So she broke down, literally had a nervous breakdown, and they admitted her into the hospital in Geneva. And while she was in the hospital, that's when CPS showed up a couple of weeks later and took Neil's kids literally out of his arms. And the claim was, and the accusations were, that Neil was crazy and that he was unfit to be a parent, and so on and so forth. And again, evidence exists in documented evidence from other psychiatrists and other doctors that have interacted with Neil and his children, not only in Switzerland, but back in Arizona to prove that he's a very fit parent. Now, one of the things you may need to understand, we failed to mention, or I did anyway, is both of these children are special needs children, and they were being seen at Phoenix Children's Hospital. And anybody that pays attention to CPS cases in Arizona knows Phoenix Children's Hospital comes up a lot in these cases, mostly because they're involved for nefarious reasons. Fortunately, from what I can tell so far in this case, nothing nefarious happened from Phoenix Children's Hospital in this case, and that's a blessing for these kids. And in fact, some very good information is coming out substantiating that Neil Stutz has been an excellent father. Recently, in this traumatic journey of the last 3 years, in fact, it's 3 years ago tonight that the children were taken from Neil Stutz. So this is the 3rd anniversary of Neil not having his kids with him. 3 years ago, in the last couple of, I guess about a month and a half, there's been 2 gentlemen that have been introduced into this situation, and they are independent observers, if you will, that have been brought in to observe Neil with his kids. And what these 2 gentlemen, who are independent from the group home where the boys are being kept by the Swiss government in a group, orphanage, if you will, or adopted home, these 2 gentlemen actually are horrified at what they've witnessed because they see Neil to be a very loving and kind family, or father. They see the kids love their dad. They are all over him. And in fact, the last visitation he was given several nights ago, the kids were crying, "Daddy, we want to go with you." And the children were telling their father they're being raped, essentially, by the people that are watching them in the home and other children.
That's terrible. That's absolutely horrific.
And Neil has photographic evidence of his children that are being sent to him by the, quotes, educators. It's a gentleman that's the one gentleman that is, interacts with his boys all the time, is sending Neil naked pictures of his children to him, texting them. What is that about? Who does that? I mean, and the worst part is these kids are so neglected. They are covered in lice. They have bites and bruises all over their body. One of his children is bleeding out of his backside regularly, and it's because they're being abused. I mean, this is beyond a horrific story, and I'm sorry to have to be so graphic about it, but after 3 years, if people don't actually pick up the phone and start making phone calls to Secretary Pompeo and AG Barr and demanding that they step in, again, let's assume everything about what they say about Neil is true. They should still be dealing with this in America. Okay, these are American people, American children, American father. This should not be being handled in Switzerland. The Swiss should say, we've stopped a real terrible tragedy. We're sending you home and you have other family and we're going to, but that's not even happening. They're torturing these children. And frankly, they're torturing Mr. Suits. This is absolutely abhorrent.
Has Neil retained any type of counsel, like any type of legal assistance, either in Switzerland or here in America?
Both. He's done both, but frankly, what he's done is absolutely incredible. All of his legal action he's taken right now, most recently, and this is where it gets very interesting. On April 27th, he filed his own pro se, meaning he represented himself, Bivens action, and he sued personally. A Bivens action, or Bivens, some people call it Bivens, is when you can actually personally sue federal employees in a federal court. So the three people that he sued are Brianna Powers, and she's with the State Department. He sued Jeremiah Dirks and Chris Delmonico. These people, Brianna Powers is the consular general at the US Embassy in Bern, Switzerland, and the other two gentlemen work in the American Citizen Services Unit. And that's where you go. If you're an American in trouble, you go there. Every embassy has an American Citizen Services Unit, ACSU. I don't care if you're in Zimbabwe or you're in, Australia or Switzerland. You go to your ACSU if you have a problem, and they help you. That's what they're there to do, help Americans abroad. So he had gone there. I have email traffic that proves that he's reached out to them, had meetings, and they're telling him, so sad, too bad, it's a Swiss problem, good luck. Contact this attorney or that attorney in Switzerland and see if they can help you. So finally, when he realized he was being denied his rights, he sued them personally, which you're allowed to do with a Bivens action. And a lawsuit going into a federal court. I'm sure a lot of people in your audience have been watching the General Flynn saga. Okay, It took forever to get assigned a judge. It takes 4 to 6 months before this stuff even gets to a docket to where you know who your judge is. He sued on April 27th. He decided to call on April 30th and speak to the clerk of the court and see if they'd received it, all that kind of stuff, just to make sure it got there. Not only had it gotten there, but the clerk said, oh, yes, you have a case number. And oh, by the way, it was dismissed. And Neil said, what? Oh, yes, it was dismissed and assigned to Judge Amy Berman Jackson.
That name probably, Jackson.
Yeah, I'm sure your audience knows that name.
Yeah.
So
we know that.
Paul Manafort, Roger Stone. I know, exactly. So this is who stepped in and swept it right out under the rug and out of the courtroom. And the worst part is she did a really sloppy job. She didn't follow proper judicial procedure. She didn't even cite the Bivens action. She miscited it as something else. She misquoted and miscited this entire plea all over the place. But again, who's going to stand up for Neil Suits when his own embassy won't stand up for Neil Suits?
Right.
So this is what he's been dealing with, and this is the reason why myself and other journalists, he's been with Brian Shohave. He was on Northwest Liberty News, Jim White's program. He got to me 4, 5, 6 months ago. I'm not even sure. I'd have to go back and look. I think it was January when I first heard from Neil Suits. I see a call come in late at night from Switzerland, and I'm like, who's this? And of course, you got to look at a lot of evidence. You got to read a lot of stuff to make sure this is not some, crazy person that's looking for his 15 minutes of fame. But it's all there. I sent you the Google Drive. If you happen to, brief through it, you can see there's a ton of stuff there. Some of it disturbing.
I had it pulled up before I had to restart my computer, so unfortunately, it's gonna take me a few minutes to get that pulled back up. But if you have anything on your computer that you want to screen share that you think the audience needs to see, then we can definitely do that. So, how many interactions has Neil had with the American Embassy? I mean, has it been an ongoing conversation, or have they essentially been a one and done? We don't want to talk to you.
No, he had several conversations with him, including he had a conversation with James Foley, which is the president of the Republican Party of Switzerland, who also engaged with Ambassador Edward McMullen, who used to be with he actually was the RNC chair during the 2016 campaign for President Trump. Mm-hmm. He became the ambassador to Switzerland. James Foley, who had email traffic and was horrified at Neil's story, moved it directly to the ambassador at the embassy saying, of course, we're going to get this to the right people. And after that, James Foley basically said, Neil, don't ever call me again, and has ceased communication. So why is it that every time it gets to a certain point, it stops? And the only thing that it points to when you look at email traffic from Robert Grant Bradford to the people at the group home, the foyer, the Swiss CPS, and they're saying, our friends at the embassy are helping us try and get our boys back. It tells you there's a coordinated effort, and it doesn't include Neil Suits.
So you have actual email communications with the ex-wife's family and people in Switzerland talking about coordination with people in the embassy.
Yeah. I can pull that up.
If we can see that, that would be absolutely incredible.
Sure.
While you're pulling that up, considering the fact that a Judge Amy Berman Jackson, and I use that term loosely, but Judge Jackson dismissing the suit and not appearing to have a grasp on what the law was that he was bringing the suit under. I mean, does Neil have any recourse? Can he try to bring it before a different judge or a different jurisdiction?
Well, he actually took it to the next level, and I love him for that because he didn't quit here. Hang on one second.
Sure.
Let me just I'm going to pull that up for you also because he did. Here's the letter that he sent to Attorney General Barr. Let me just hit the share.
Okay.
Wait, you've disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, geez. 1 second.
I know, reboots are the worst. All your settings, poof, gone.
Yes, everything is gone. Let me go pull it up here.
Nothing surprises me with this case, though.
Yeah, this is a first, though. This is the first time that I mean, I've been muted before, but not in that way. Let's see, because everything was not muted. And then all of the prep that I had done, of course, now it's all gone away. Good Lord. Okay. So frustrating. Also, Anne, many people in the audience have been asking specifically what can they do, and you've mentioned a couple times people that we need to that they need to call. Would you go through a list? Do you have like contact information for people that or only names of people that they should be contacting?
You know what I will do? I will, while we're going through this, I'll pull it up, but it's Attorney General William Barr. I mean, honestly, call the Attorney General's office and tell them you're demanding to have Attorney General Barr contact the U.S. Embassy in Switzerland and demand the release of the Suits children to Mr. Suits. They're stuck at the Swiss group boys home. It's called a foyer, and the Swiss government knows exactly what's going on. The U.S. Embassy in Switzerland knows exactly what's going on. All Attorney General Barr has to do is contact the U.S. Embassy in Switzerland, and say, please return the children. And that Swiss Embassy can make that happen. It's really not complicated. It's a phone call. Secretary Pompeo can do it. I just want to remind your audience, I mean, I know your audience, and you probably talk about this too, Red Pill, is, Secretary Pompeo puts out, and the Secretary of State's office puts out every single year, the Trafficking in Persons report. Mm-hmm. Well, they've listed in not only this year's trafficking in persons, but last year's trafficking in persons and the year before, that CPS, here in the United States, is the largest purveyor of child trafficking. People go, what are you talking about? That CPS is supposed to save children from bad parents. Well, What we're learning, just like we've learned in the IRS and the FBI and the DOJ, they're all corrupt. And it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money. And child trafficking happens in CPS worldwide. And there's an institution called the International Social Services, ISS. That is the grandfather of CPS worldwide. It was established in 1924 in Geneva, Switzerland. And Neil and I did some research, and frankly, the credit goes mostly to Neil here on this. But when you look at the tree, the actual tree of where the money goes, ISS funds the American Citizen Services Unit in embassies worldwide. It's part of their, fund money that rolls downhill. But where does ISS get a lot of its money from? Who's their main benefactor? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Shocked? I mean, are we really anymore?
I'm not.
After all we've learned with what's going on with COVID and everything else, are we even shocked anymore?
No.
So the money in human trafficking is monstrously huge, and we know there's a lot of very sick people with very bad, predilections for little kids, and all the evidence that we're getting now is starting to point towards, that the embassies are somehow involved in, maybe as an underground railroad, in trafficking these kids worldwide. I mean, you look at the Secretary of State, the American Citizen Services Unit holdovers are primarily from the Obama and Clinton administration. And we know Hillary Clinton was a very deviant Secretary of State. I mean, look at the Swiss banking scandal. I mean, there's a lot of ties there. It's this stuff's all connected. But again, I want to boil this down to a simple soundbite. American kids, American father being illegally detained in Switzerland, they need to be brought home to America. That's it. Call Secretary Barr, call AG Barr, Secretary Pompeo, and say, please return this American family from Switzerland. When we brought Michael White home from Iran and the Swiss came in, and the Ambassador McMullen was there on the tarmac when they brought that American hostage home from Iran, and Switzerland got involved and President Trump thanked Switzerland. Neil Suits and his family should have been on that plane. They should have been on that plane.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Many people are asking, how do you spell Neil's last name so that when they...
Certainly. S-U-T-Z. S-U-T-Z.
S-U-T-Z.
S-U-T-Z.
So while all of this is going on, I mean, what is Neil doing? Is he living and working in Switzerland? Is he working on trying to set his children free full time?
Yeah, he's been working nonstop on trying to set his children free full time, but God bless him, he does have to make a living. So he is working. He does a variety. He's a very, very smart man, very well spoken, very well written. So he spends a lot of time consulting for other businesses. I don't pry too much in his personal, what he's doing there, because I focus mainly on this case. I think that's a better use of my time than understanding how he funds his ability to do this. But he has been, frankly, he's had to live with other people several times to get protection, because he is being treated like a criminal, even though he's not broken one single law in Switzerland, not one. And if you speak to the man, you will understand what I'm talking about. Like I said, he's very well spoken. How he can keep it together after 3 years of this, I have no idea. I don't know if I would still be alive, frankly. I think the stress would have gotten to me.
Well, and
especially when you see your children just falling apart. He was with them the other day, and one of his children, the oldest, is half of his body weight of what he should be. And the other one is just, unfortunately, because he's the baby in the foyer, he's the baby in the group home. He's being not only sexually abused by his educator, who sends naked pictures to the father, but he's also being attacked and abused by other kids in the foyer that have grown up under those abusive circumstances. So the pattern of violence and sexual abuse just continues. It's horrific.
Has he attempted to go to just local Swiss authorities, like the Swiss just police? I don't know what their designations are, but there must be a local police office.
Yep, nobody's doing a thing.
Just completely look the other way.
Yep.
Are there any any possible stones that he might have left unturned? Does he have anything that he could still be working on, or that he is working on? Or I mean, it seems like he's done absolutely everything that he can at this point, and that it's almost as if all hope is lost. And perhaps it's up to the audience to put that pressure on the American government.
Let me tell you something. 3 years ago, or almost 3 years, 2 years ago, when we were working heavily on tax return, and I was covering the new, the first tax reform we'd done in almost 50 years or whatever with President Trump, I was covering that every single day. And we found a poison pill where they were trying to basically change the depreciation of commercial real estate to zero, or down to zero. So you can immediately expense any investment properties. And if you remember the 80s, when they did the depreciation schedule, they reduced it. people went out and bought all this commercial real estate, and then we had the savings and loan crisis because we had too much supply and not enough demand. And since there was no demand, mortgages on these buildings couldn't get paid. Banks went belly up. It was a big, huge scandal in the 80s. Well, Chairman Brady and Paul Ryan were trying to do that and sink President Trump's tax reform. And so we caught on to this, and I reported on it every single day. I flew to DC a ton. I was talking to senators and congressmen and their chiefs of staff, just covering, hammering. They finally pulled that poison pill out. And you know how we did it? Because I begged the audience, please. I gave them the names, and they called for like 2 months. They blew up their switchboards. And finally, Speaker Ryan told the gentleman that I was working with, I don't know who she was or how you did it, but you out-mediated us, and we had to take it out. We just put too much heat on them, and they took it out. And it comes down to the squeaky wheel gets greased. So if your audience wants to help one family and make a landmark case that's going to shine a light on the corruption in CPS that's not only going on in this country, but it's worldwide, they can blow up the phones at AG Barr's office and Secretary Pompeo. And I'm telling you, they can make a difference. Your audience could absolutely make a difference.
All right, I am making a public plea right now to every single person watching this show. Please call AG Barr's office, call Mike Pompeo's office, tag them both on Twitter, and make sure that they know about this story. Also, make sure that you share this show everywhere that you possibly can, and make sure that everybody that you're friends with on social media is aware of this story. Are there any other links that you have that we can direct people to
Yes.
see information about this?
Yes. In fact, I just got this coming out of Arizona. There's going to be a press conference in about 1 hour on rightsocial.net. In fact, it says be a press conference coming out of Arizona regarding the Suits family case. And it's going to be on video. I believe it's a live press conference in 1 hour. And it's going to involve some people that are actually running for office that have also taken up the interest of this case, that are trying to get the attention of certain people in Washington, D.C. And so they're, again, trying to gin up more of a media response, because mainstream media won't talk about this. I mean, how often do you ever see real CPS stories on mainstream media? Almost never. Never. And Arizona is a hotbed of it. And the medical kidnapping is a real thing. I talked to hundreds of people. There's lots of journalists out there that have talked to hundreds and thousands of families that are in this horrific situation. I'm sure there's people in your audience, when I go back and look at the chat, that are victims of CPS kidnapping, that don't deserve to have their kids taken away.
There are undoubtedly. I actually found an article from the Conservative Choice Campaign. It was just the first thing that came up, an article written by you. I'm going to go ahead and share that in the chat there. That's something you guys can reference, something that'll be easy to share on social media.
Please.
Yeah, lots of information about the case in there. When you first told me about this story, I was just completely blown away. I mean, the idea that this man is unable to receive any help from either the Swiss or the U.S. authorities, and that there is clearly some sort of a concerted effort to make sure that these children continue to live in these sadistic conditions. And the fact that the person who is abusing them at the care home is so brazenly sending these images to the father. I mean, it's not bad enough these children are living through it every day, but he has to make sure that the father is also suffering as well. Is there anything to point to the idea that maybe the abuse is that anybody is profiting off of this abuse? I don't even want to say it out loud, but
that I don't know, and I've never actually asked that question. Because frankly, to me right now, that's stuff that can be learned after the fact. Yeah. For me, it's pressing to make sure this information gets to somebody who's going to do something about it. And that's what I've been focused on, is who can we get this to? I've contacted a lot of people that have a seat at the table in the inner circle, and it just hasn't made it to the right person to pick up that phone. And I don't know if it's the pressure coming from the ex-wife's family or what, but for Neil Suits to actually go to DC last fall and start to walk into to the DOJ and be stopped by the DOJ police, the security there, and say, nope, you're not going in there. We're expecting you. You're not going in there, and your information's not going to make it there either. And so Neil said, fine, I'm going to go to the Senate. Nope, we're calling the Capitol Police. You're not allowed to go anywhere. They were, a coordinated effort to keep him from getting any help. There's no reason. If he's such a bad father, then bring the American kids home where they belong. They're not Swiss. Then give them to American CPS, but they're not doing it. They're trying to circumvent everything. and get these kids back to the stepfather from where a video exists, and people know this video exists of the stepfather molesting a 13-year-old boy. It makes no sense. Except that it's a bigger problem than we actually realize. And this is, all the stuff we're learning now, right? The Hollywood, the NXIVM, all of it. It's all coming out. So
it is. And it's obviously all connected. I mean, I'm at a loss for words with this. And would you do me a favor and send me over a copy of that link for the press conference that's going to be starting at the end of our broadcast? Then I can share that in the chat with everybody.
You bet. I'll send it to you right now. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I appreciate your audience's attention to this. Amazing. You do a great job. I think Angel's in here. I love her.
Angel Flies 17. Yeah. All right. It looks like Gizmo's mom has shared a phone number for one of these people. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's Pompeo or if it's AG Barr. But 202-353-1555. And that may be just a number to the general switchboard in Washington, D.C., so you can get to somebody. But 202-353-1555. And did you text that to me, or did you send it via email?
The link to the rightsocial.net, I will text it to you right now.
Okay, because then I can pull it up right here, and then I can share it in the chat. All right, you guys, we're about to open up the phones so that if you have your own questions for Ann, then you can ask them about this case. I know that we have people in the audience who have been a victim of improper actions by CPS. So I know that there's a lot of people this is going to be touching here tonight. All right, let me get that pulled up. And I'm going to share that in here, you guys. Then this would be a great thing to catch as soon as we're done here. It looks like that will be starting right there. All right, so we've got that pulled up on the screen. That is the passcode and the phone number for Zoom. And let me drop the Zoom meeting link into the chat. And if you have the Zoom app on your phone or on your computer, then you can use that to dial in. I see people already saying that they've emailed the DOJ. That's great. You. I mean, I would recommend people, do everything, email,
Twitter.
Mail, call, Twitter, absolutely everything that we possibly can. We've got 243,000 people subscribed to this channel. And if we get, 10% of that, that's going to be enough tweets and enough notifications to have somebody pay attention to this. 3,000 people watching, 1.4 thousand likes, guys. Please consider leaving a like so that we can get this out. We still have another hour for the show, so if you have not yet shared it on social media, do us a favor, get that out. I'm sure that the mishap at the beginning probably messed up the notification system, but this is not the kind of show generally that they send out notifications to everybody on. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop that Zoom link into the chat. Please give us a call with your questions for Ann. So, Ann, right now Neil is in Switzerland. Is the actions he's taking to try to get his children back? Is it requiring him to go back and forth between the United States and Switzerland?
Not at this point. He was there last fall. Like I said, he tried to see somebody in the DOJ. We had a phone call with Colette Ford, who works for AG Barr, and she was very. I don't like to use the word threatening, as I didn't hear the phone call, but she made a statement of, Mr. Suits, you're very brave to go and confront all these people. Yeah. Well, who at the DOJ says that? Instead of saying, oh my goodness, that sounds like a horrible story. How can we look into you? How can we help you and look into this? It's sort of dismissive and mocking is a way I would characterize that statement, which is disturbing.
It is. Let me just give a couple quick thank yous to the audience. Hey Jude says, Patrick Howley has been all over CPS abuse. Have you, by chance, hooked up with Patrick Howley at all on this?
Actually, Patrick and I have done some great work together in the past. I've covered a lot of the stuff he's covered and had, we have different angles on it. And he did take a look at this case, and they put an article out, but it was really just a conglomeration of a lot of previous articles. It wasn't new information being put forth. So it didn't really go anywhere with that. But I applaud the work Patrick's done. He's done incredible work in this area. So continue to support that.
Also, Mike Morton, thank you very much, Mike, for that. I appreciate that. He said, thanks for always delivering a great show. Let's see, Marion Thiesfeld, thank you for that. Beulah Nix, thank you as well. Michael Kenny, hashtag MuteGate. Always happens when you're not in a flannel. It's summertime. I'm not going to be... thanks,
hot.
Mike. Too hot for flannels, definitely. Let's see.
That's classic.
Yeah. I mean, it happens enough. That's so Marilyn, thanks again. Also, Diane Cleveland, thank you for that, Diane. Peggy Person, Tamara Elliott, also Jake Carter 685, and Jude. Hey, Jude says, is it working? Clearly, it's not working. I don't know. I got gremlins in my computer tonight, so it is not happening the way that I thought it was going to. SJ, the Zoom is if you want to call into the program and ask Ann questions about this case. We've got 8 people on the line. Let's go ahead and bring our first caller in. Oh. And let's see, it's QAnonian.
The Judicial Watch comment, by the way, I see this from Mom of TT. I just want to address, I have worked with Judicial Watch on Fast and Furious stuff that I did a big press conference and have a whole new list of victims. So they are on my hit parade of people to contact, but we've been trying to go direct. That's sort of an indirect way, but thank you. Go ahead. Sorry, QAnonian. I love that.
QAnonian. Looks like their audio is still connecting. Susan Barnes says, contact Melania Trump. If I had a direct line to Melania Trump, I would definitely do so.
No kidding. Yeah. Me too. I tag Ivanka, and I have tagged Flotus on tweets before, but I've been, recently really gone for Ivanka because she is doing a lot of work on human trafficking.
She is. All right, let's see. So QAnonian, looks like QAnonian is having a little bit of issue with their audio. Unless they're going to be playing games with everybody's audio. Let's pray for an easy Zoom call tonight, guys. Let's see.
MuteGate.
Yeah, let's see. And what is this? I don't think it was his mute button. It wasn't my mute button this time, guys. It definitely wasn't my mute button. I had to restart the computer because it wasn't working. James Kin, you are on the air. Can we get you to unmute your button? Well, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Hopefully that'll go ahead and do it. All right, you guys. Thank you for your patience tonight. Are you there, James?
Hey, Red Pill, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Hanging in there.
Good. What's your question for Ann?
I just got on. I came into the Zoom when you put the number up there. I wasn't prepared to ask any question. I just was glad that I got in.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cute. I appreciate you calling, James.
And I want to tell you, I love you guys a bunch.
Oh, buddy, thank you.
And I watch you all the time. You're fabulous.
I appreciate that, man. Definitely. Really appreciate that. Well, did you get a chance to listen to the first half of the show? Did you hear what we were talking about?
Just a little bit.
Okay. All right. James, do you have a Twitter yourself?
I do.
You do? Okay. Well, do you think
it's at James Kin underscore.
At James Kin
underscore. James underscore Kin.
James underscore Kin. Okay. All right. Yeah. Listen, do you think you can help us out by tweeting to AG Barr and Secretary Pompeo and maybe giving a call to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Good stuff.
Got to do that. We gotta leverage every way we can.
Mm-hmm.
And as a citizen of the United States of America, that's kind of a misnomer because we're not really citizens.
Yeah, I mean it is a complicated web that's been woven since the country was enacted. Yeah. It's more like we're property of the corporation.
In order to move our Congress, we have to redress our grievances. And the way you do that is with a remonstrance to the legislature to bring them into assembly and instruct them. That is what the Constitution says to do. And that's how we need to move our Congress. However, we have to get a real Congress first.
Yeah, well, one of the problems I always see with this stuff is even if we understand the way things are supposed to work, there have been these practices that have been ingrained into the people of Washington, D.C., who are supposed to be representing us and who might have an obligation to do things in a certain way, but good luck getting them to actually follow them. You know, I mean,
well, see, here's our
unfortunately.
problem.
Yeah.
Here's our problem. We have all three of branches of our government have been infiltrated by the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And the bar is not a legitimate pillar of our government.
It's very true.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have three pillars of our government. And where did this bar thing come from?
Wasn't there, I just read something recently, until a certain point, weren't lawyers not allowed to hold positions in government? Or am I
That's a
remembering that
title of
correctly?
nobility. It was the original 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
Of course, they had to get rid of that. The bankers did.
That's right. Yes, the original 13th Amendment. Yeah, I actually...
Titles of nobility. You can't...
Yeah,
you
I heard a
can't hold
podcast
office.
about somebody had gone to a bunch of, I don't know if they were public libraries throughout the country, but they actually found, archives of the original 13th Amendment, and they were trying to publish it, and it couldn't get anybody to even listen to them.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but fortunately for us, it's in several different states' archives.
Mm-hmm.
So the original does exist. We know
Right.
what it was, and that's where we're going. Trump has taken us back to our
That's
original
right.
republic.
That's right.
Yeah, that is...
And they're against the deep state, kicking and screaming. We're going back.
Yeah,
right.
we've already won. They just don't know it yet.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, well, James,
All
thanks
right,
for
it
your
was
call,
real
brother.
good talking to you. I love talking to you. That was great.
Likewise, brother. I'm glad that you were able to get in there, and we did a first call there. Have a wonderful evening.
You too, and Ann, I love you too.
Love you too, sweetheart. Have a great
right.
night.
Night, James.
Good night, dear.
Bye-bye. What a great way to start out. That was
Right?
That was perfect. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Charles's iPhone. We're going to be bringing in Charles's iPhone next. All right. Charles, we've got video. We just need to get your audio connected. And we'll go ahead and see what's going on. I need to say thank you to Ginger. Also, thank you to Brian. Appreciate both of you. Thank you for those donations. When, oh yeah, man. I'm sorry I was a little bit out of sorts at the beginning there, guys. Usually, quite a bit of prep goes into making sure that everything's perfect. And when it completely goes out like that, the way that it did, it throws me back on my heels. Charles, are you there, buddy?
I am.
How are you, Charles?
I'm well.
Excellent. Hey, it's Charlie. Charlie, what's going on, Charlie?
Hi. And the question for Ann is, excuse me for the confusion, but it sounds. Are there children in both countries, and he's trying to get the ones out of America? Or are they all in America? I'm confused as to.
No, that's okay. That's okay. The children are actually in Switzerland. Neil had moved his entire family to Switzerland 3 years ago, and the children were taken from him after Neil's wife fell ill, and she was in the hospital.
They're trapped in CPS in Switzerland.
Correct. And they're all American citizens. They're all American citizens. They should not be being dealt with by the Swiss government. There's no need for that. They went to the embassy. They got no help, and they're still in Switzerland. And Neil has been,
Well, I think it's the Mormon connection is all powerful over there. So, anyway, that's just my opinion, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Charlie, what's
You're
going
very
on?
great.
How you been?
We're doing very well. I'm scheduled to do a show with Dr. Judy Mikovits and Dr. Tenpenny and Dr. Fleming and an attorney, Ron Chapman, in the beginning of August, and then another one with Sherry Tenpenny the following day. So things are moving along. And thanks for all you're doing, Ann. You're very brave, and I know what it takes to cause some sort of action. And thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing. It's it's everybody. Everybody's involved. We all have equal weight in this fight. We got to keep going. Everybody. It's so important.
Exactly. Good night.
All right,
Good
Charlie.
night.
Good talking to you, buddy. All right, excellent. Charles Pixley, good friend of the channel, also one of my mods. All right, let's see here. Let's try to bring in somebody who's calling on their phone, not from the app. Caller, you're on the air. Can we get your name for the audience?
Craig.
Craig, how are you?
Hey, great, Red Pill. Love your stuff, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you calling in. What's your question or comment for Ann?
So I just wanted to give a little background on Field McConnell. I don't know if you guys have any, I don't know. I know there's a lot of controversy around Field and everything, but I personally think he's a man of God and he's a true patriot. I also believe that he was incredibly a warrior for children, and he was on the air for a long period of time, like 15 years plus, I think. And it wasn't until he had a conversation with a lady that was involved in a CPS case that everything for him went quacky and wacky. He got infiltrated within a couple of weeks' time after that happened. And then, boom, he's in a prison in Pierce County, Wisconsin, moved to Florida, and now nobody has heard from him, and nobody knows anything, and it is all related to CPS. Any comments? And I'll get off and listen to your show. And thank you again, guys. And Ann, I love you too.
Thank you for calling, Craig. Appreciate it. So yeah, the situation with Field McConnell is definitely disturbing, pretty delicate. He has completely dropped off the map, and I know that a lot of people have wanted an update about what's going on with him, but I don't know anything either. Ann, have you heard anything about the case?
The only thing I know is that Juan O'Savin, who actually knows Field, I asked Juan about him, and he said, Field has just gone dark. And he was involved in that lady. Her name right now is Cindy Absug. That's what it is. Yeah, Cindy. And I'd actually talked and interviewed Cindy several times in the beginning.
I had to.
He was involved. He was involved in her case, and there just seemed to be a lot of drama. So there was several other broadcasters involved in the case, and there was a lot of brouhaha after I had interviewed her several times. And then he got involved. Like I said, he got arrested and brought down to Florida. And I don't know what happened to him after that. Juan O'Savin just sort of said, well, Juan wasn't disparaging because Juan considers him a friend. Yeah. But it looked like maybe, sometimes you have to say a little less than more. There's something to be said for that. Yeah. And sometimes you have to know the enemy. And, it's sometimes there's battles you just don't want to pick verbally because you're surrounded by the enemy and you don't have a way out. So where he is at the moment, I don't know if is he in jail in Florida? Do we have that confirmed?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, he was extradited down there, but I haven't heard anything since. It's been months. So
that's right. So we don't know if he's still here. I mean, or I should say still in Florida. We don't know that, so I don't know. He was very controversial. He said a lot of things that, some people were like, that's either totally out there or, but I know his heart was in the right place. At least I feel like it was because he was so passionate about what he was doing. But like anybody, there's always so much, if you've got dark forces like CPS, like what we're seeing in this country, they were saying a lot of really horrible things about him. Was it projection because of what they're doing and what we now know CPS has been doing in general? There's a lot of, there's good people in CPS, but there's a lot of bad stuff happening, and it's all around the almighty dollar.
Exactly. It's dangerous when you disrupt that money chain, you've got a lot of different people who are dependent upon that wicked activity. Now, somebody said that he is under house arrest at his son's home in Florida, I believe. I've heard several people say that in the chat.
I've heard that too. I've heard that too. Again, I have no confirmation of any of it. It's all hearsay. Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody actually can confirm that would be awesome.
Yeah. From what I understand, probably the reason we haven't heard anything is that I believe there's a gag order of some kind. I mean, he's not allowed to be out speaking about this in the way that he was previously. So,
well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. One of the things that people should know is that when I covered still covering Fast and Furious, one of the victims had a fire at his home. One of the victims of Fast and Furious, it was proven that they were completely raided and everything stolen by ATF. We submitted all the stuff to Judicial Watch. They validated all of our documents. It went forward to DOJ from there. I'm assuming DOJ is doing something about it, but we're not apprised of that stuff. But this particular victim had a fire at his home, an innocent fire on his porch. One of his neighbors forgot to extinguish the cigarettes. Porch caught fire. It was put out. Nobody was harmed. No big deal. But CPS showed up like a week or two later wanting to know if there was guns in the home, how did the Christmas tree fire start? And he's like, whoa, 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 it wasn't a Christmas tree. This is what happened. And CPS immediately was trying to get all this information out of his kids. So he was being bullied by CPS, just like the Lois Lerner Tea Party IRS days. The IRS was bullying conservatives. So they were using CPS to try and bully this gentleman who actually knows his rights. And when he convinced them that he knew his rights and was recording them, they went away. But this is a common behavior for the CPS organization to try and threaten people. If they know you have young kids, how can they get you to shut up? And they ran into the wrong person with this gentleman, Wesley Felix, because he knows his rights. Anyway, you have a caller. Wow. Sorry.
Yeah. Before that, I need to say thank you to M and M, and then also Kyle on Cash App, both on Cash App. He said for the war chest. Thank you both, Kyle and MM. Caller, you're on the air. Can we get your name?
Hey, this is Miracle Girly. Hi, guys.
Hi. How are you tonight?
I'm good. So, question for Anne. Are there any photos of the kids somewhere? Because I've tweeted it out already and 6 people retweeted it, but if there are photos of them, I think that will make even more of an impact.
Great. I'm glad you asked that. There are, but I would prefer that Neil Suits, who's monitoring this, that he go ahead and attach whatever photos he wants to attach. I do not want to be really responsible. I've tweeted one photo of their children, and it was, appropriate and all of that, but I would prefer that Neil Suits does that. So I know he's listening to this, so he will be looking for that. Did you tag me in the tweet by any chance?
I did not, but I will retweet it and tag you in it.
Okay, if you do that, you can. That would be fantastic. The other person you could tag would be Neil. Let me just pull up his Twitter account so I can get it to you exactly. 1 second, so I don't misspell it. It's at Swiss 4 Trump now. At Swiss 4 Trump now. If you tag him, he will absolutely respond and probably quote tweet with whatever you have, with whatever appropriate picture he wants to put up. He's got thousands of pictures of him and his kids. He's a super dad. And actually, I can attest to that because he pocket dialed me one time when he was with his kids. And my name is Ann, obviously first name in the Rolodex. I got a pocket dial, and I wasn't at first sure if I was supposed to be listening to the conversation because I wasn't sure if perhaps he wanted me to be a witness to something. Mm-hmm. And then I realized he was on a visitation. And I could hear the kids, and they were so happy. And I heard the way he spoke to them. So it was an innocent butt dial, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you what I heard was beautiful. Just like normal father-children should be. It was a very sweet and endearing conversation. Most of it in French, but that's okay. I speak a little of that, too.
Yeah. All right, Miracle Girly.
Thank you. That was...
Go ahead.
Well, one last thing, which I've been dying to tell everybody forever. So I just... a month ago became a citizen, and that means for me that I have to give up the citizenship to the country I was born in, which is kind of a big deal. But I did that so that I could vote this year, even though I've been a permanent resident for over 10 years.
Congrats.
But
congrats.
In doing that whole citizenship, if everybody went in and looked at what you had to fill out to become a citizen, you would see what utter BS it is that everybody's screaming for socialism, because it tells you that the U.S. is not a socialist place, essentially. Like, you have to study it. There are 100 questions you have to study. And one of the things is that the free economy, and you have to accept that. And when you take your vow and your oath, you have to take the oath saying that you agree to all of that. So it's totally insane that people are like, we want to change everything, even we didn't know. I mean, anyway, that's my little rant. Just wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome.
Yeah, glad to have you here amongst the American patriots. Thanks for watching the show also.
Thanks.
All right, have a good night. Congratulations once more.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep, see ya. That's awesome. Good to hear it. All right, so Let's Get Real is our next caller. I'm going to share a link to Neil's Twitter. Throw that in there right now. That's in the chat there if you guys want to follow. Let's Get Real. Welcome, Let's Get Real. Just need to get your audio connected. And let me see. I'm also going to drop Ann's Twitter one more time in the chat. Let's Get Real. Are you there? Just need you to unmute.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm having difficulty for some reason.
No problem. We got you now. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
Doing well. What's your question for Ann?
Well, I first of all wanted to tell Anne how much I enjoy her show. I watch it all the time, as well as I watch yours.
Thank you.
So, and I'm just really, really wanted to point out that I'm so glad that you guys are putting the spotlight on the children. And I'm really concerned about all the missing children, and specifically the United States of America. There's like, what, 800,000 children go missing a year.
That's right.
And yet we're calling this a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think the real pandemic is all the missing children.
That's right.
And I really don't understand why people aren't more upset about it. And how can we get that out there?
Well, I think what we're doing right now, I mean, is exactly, the one of the first steps. Unfortunately, I think the reason people are not concerned about it, I mean, it's the idea of out of sight, out of mind. I mean, the fake lamestream media is not ever mentioning the fact that you have this pandemic of children going missing and you have no idea what's happening to them. And instead, they're telling people to focus on, this manufactured event that we are finding ourselves involved in.
That's right.
But I mean, this is clearly an issue that is very close to both Ann and I's hearts. Ann, I mean, you're doing tremendous work. I mean, you're shining a big spotlight on this. How far are you planning on taking this story?
All the way to its conclusion, whatever that is. We're going to go all the way to the end. Any of the stories I've covered, I stay in contact with the people that I've actually reported on. If they've been on my show, definitely, because they're all at different phases. But this one seems so easy to solve. Mm-hmm. Nobody's in jail. The kids sort of are, if you consider the group home jail. It really is jail. They're being held illegally. They're being held against their will. They clearly want to go home. There's clearly psychiatric evidence to prove to the contrary that Neil is a very fit and loving father. But it's just such corruption right now, and he's not getting help from his home country or the home embassy. So this could be a big win for President Trump to say, I saved this family, or it could be very quietly done. Either way, it's the right thing to do. And I think when you start to shine a spotlight on something of international consequence, it then will help bring the focus into the mainstream media. I mean, just today I saw CNN reporting on the Alvin Ailey dance school. I don't know if anybody remembers who Alvin Ailey is, but he is a famous dance choreographer. And, he's done modern dance for years as a dance school. But now some of his employees have been caught up, particularly one gentleman in particular, caught up in sexual harassment of the students in the dance school. So CNN is now starting to talk about something in the entertainment industry, if you will, that's of a perverse nature, which is like step one, sort of like when the Daily Beast broke the Harvey Weinstein story. It's sort of like the guilty people that have been covering it are being forced to kind of break these stories out there. And I think, to Red Pill's point, it's up to us to find journalists that are on the independent media that will work together, that don't have egos involved, that really just want to solve the problem. And we'll do the heavy lifting of pushing and pushing and pushing it up the hill. So my platform's here. Red Pill's platform is way up here. But you know what? He doesn't have an ego, and he's happy to say, this is a real story. Let's give it a lift up. And you know what? If it were to go from Red Pill to somebody bigger, I know Red Pill will be like, I got a win for the Suits family. That's awesome. And that's who I like to work with, because those types of journalists really want to solve problems and make an impact. And the more light we shed on something, the cleaner we can disinfect the problem. So that's really, it's not an easy fix, unless, of course, Secretary Pompeo or AG Barr hears this and picks up the phone and calls the embassy. But if anybody in the audience can affect that, it doesn't matter if the audience is 5 people or 5 million. It just takes one phone call to the right person and it's done. So we all, like, I know my ego's in check. I know Red Pill's in check. I know everybody in this audience is in check. Yeah. That's how we have to work together.
Yeah, I think that the best thing we can possibly do is just to make as much noise as as is humanly possible. And I know that I have people in the audience who do work in various agencies in the federal government. So if anyone out there has any type of sway or pull with anyone at all at the DOJ, even if it's at the FBI, okay, then maybe they can move it along. Anything we can possibly do to help Neil and to help his children, because this is a real ongoing problem. And
that's right.
There's already been tremendous damage done. And I want to cry just thinking about it. I mean, these poor kids on a daily basis having to go through this, and even more so for Neil. It is one of the most frightening things that I can possibly imagine, being a father, because I am a father, and in that position, not being able to do anything, not only knowing that it's happening, but also being forced to witness it by a sadistic person who has access to my children on a daily basis. There's no possible way that these children have done anything to deserve what's happening to them. And I'm just so disgusted by the people in the U.S. government. You know, Swiss, I don't know anything about the Swiss, okay? I mean, it seems like the Swiss have a lot of problems as it is. But the people in the U.S. government who are not willing to do anything, yes, Whitehead, I'm hoping that you're listening, because he does work at the FBI, and I'm hoping that he can pass something along. But, you know, we have to rally around this. I mean, this is a legitimate case. You know, a lot of people will come forward and say, I have been treated unfairly by CPS. And there's no receipts, okay? Neil has receipts. This is a 100% a valid story. This is newsworthy, and I'm shocked that it hasn't been covered more broadly by some, you know, large organizations. It just goes to show how deep the corruption runs.
That's right. And somebody in the chat, let me scroll back. Who was that? And this is true. Yvonne7, Arizona CPS wearing shirts saying child kidnapper, true story. They were all fired. You know, it's so bad that they're mocking and making fun of the fact that, you know, Arizona is ground zero for medical kidnapping for CPS. It's a known fact. There's many cases coming out, many cases coming out of Arizona that are known medical kidnapping cases. And they think it's funny. They mock what they do, and they're so emboldened and so brazen, and they're lost on their own hubris that they're just putting it out there. They don't care because they think they're untouchable. And it's really got to be to the point where broadcasters like us have just got to make as much noise as possible and start blowing up phones in the federal government until they finally do something. Again, Patrick Calley did break the story that the Trump administration was looking for whistleblowers inside CPS. Well, if we can't get enough whistleblowers, we have to blow the whistle. We have to blow the whistle back on the federal government and just call out and say, here's a case, go and get this family. And once you get that family and you start to unravel all the people that are connected in this family's case, there's a lot of rabbit holes in the Suits case. And I don't want to distract the audience from the mission at hand, which is calling Barr and Pompeo and demanding the family be reunited and brought back to the States so they can get, you know, they can be together and just get away from this horrible situation. But if you start to unpack, and Neil Suits is willing to testify, all the rabbit holes and legs of this particular story, I guarantee you'll unpack a lot more about child trafficking, not only in the United States, but worldwide, because of all the entanglements involved in this. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
All right, let's get real. Any final thoughts?
Thank you, Ginger.
Yeah, I actually did. CPS is certainly a problem. That's granted, and we need to pray for these children. I also would ask that people pray for all military personnel that are going underground into the dumps to free these children. It happened not very far from me. And these people are fighting demons. They're actually fighting demons and don't know how to combat them. And I know that may sound cuckoo to a lot of people, but I'm a believer. And another thing I wanted to ask you, Ann, was what is your stance on the veracity of Gene Kansese, his statements on your last interview with him?
Oh, on Kirsten W's channel?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I can't validate any of the stuff he said. Those are his opinions. I have absolutely no ability to say that I know it to be true or not true, because I haven't seen any evidence to any of that. He was actually showing us evidence on the channel that, you know, DUMBs or earthquakes happening at 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and he was explaining it. It was really, I don't want to say I've heard of DUMBs, but that's the first time I've actually had somebody, first time I ever met the man was on the YouTube channel, but it's the first time I actually had somebody explain that to me. So I have not seen any evidence to that.
There's another YouTuber that came out very critical of your interview with her, and I quickly unsubscribed from him.
Oh, well, first of all, it wasn't my interview. I was on somebody else's channel, but second of all, it wouldn't matter because I, again, like Red Pill, if you interviewing somebody, it doesn't mean you agree with them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and people that try and
Exactly.
hold you accountable for what somebody else says really don't understand the First Amendment right then, do they? I mean, if I, you know, then I would be, I can't limit someone's free speech. I can either agree with them or disagree with them. I was just saying, well, that's interesting. I hadn't heard any of that.
I just thought you might know. So, but
Yeah.
thank you for your time. I
My
enjoy
pleasure.
you both.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Let's get real. We'll talk to you next
Bye-bye.
time. Bye-bye.
That's such a good name.
Yes, it is.
It's true though.
It's, yeah, very, very true. Let's see. Hold on. It's not. There we go. That should do it. Okay. Jennifer's iPhone is coming up next. And for some reason, I can't remove Let's Get Real, but it sounds like she's off the phone. So hopefully, let's see if that. There we go. Did it. Jennifer, I hope that you're there. We've got you on the air. So yeah, I just want to say, Ann, I've been getting inundated with notifications while we've been on the air. Many people are already tweeting and spreading the message about Neil and his children. Thank you so much, you guys. Continue to do that. I don't think this is something that we should let fall by the wayside. I mean, I hope that by having Ann on the show, by broadcasting this message, perhaps we will be able to get it knocked up the chain a few notches. Looks like Mike Patriot just talked to White Hat. Awesome.
Great.
Hello.
Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm great, Red Pill. How are you? And hi, Ann. How are you?
Good, Jennifer. Nice to speak with you.
Doing
nice
well.
to speak with you. This is my first time calling in. I've followed Red Pill for a long time, and my Twitter handle is @ComfortForward. I had a couple of questions, actually, and I was curious if either one of you guys or people that you know where these kids go for like rehabilitation or things like that, because this is something that I'm very interested in helping with. And you guys talking about how messed up the foster care and all those systems are, and I know a lot of the children's corporations are have tons of people in them that are not great people. So just curious, how do you tell if it's a good a good nonprofit that really helps children, and if you knew ways that you can help other than like money and obviously writing in and stuff about people?
Well, I want to defer that answer to somebody in the chat, and I saw her earlier. Melinda Sherwin is in here, and she is a force when it comes to dealing with CPS stories. She's been an incredible oh my God, she's gone on the journey of many people's cases, and she's familiar with Neil. She's spoken to Neil. She's actually dealt with another lady by the name of Melissa Deagle, whose case, Red Pill, have you ever had Melissa Deagle on?
Never had Melissa Deagle on, no.
No, that's another incredible story. Melinda, if I see you're in the chat, they need to go home. Obviously, they need to go home. Melinda, is there anybody specifically that you can think of for some of these kids? Are there programs, maybe nationally or locally, that you think of that make the most sense for these kids to get help besides the obvious, some parents just can't afford. They can't afford therapy. It's outpatient. It's not always covered by insurance. It's $150 to $200 an hour or more.
Right.
So how do you help these kids? Getting home is the biggest start. But if they've been sexually abused, like Neil's kids have, and like so many kids have, that's a real problem, and that requires above my pay grade.
That was always my curiosity, because I know that obviously there's a lot of people that get kidnapped into this, but then when they rescue these kids and maybe they can't find their families, I'm in North Carolina, so I don't know if that helps out anybody in the chat, but it's something that I love to work with children and animals, and I always have, and never had kids of my own, and this is something that I feel passionate about.
Well, I think that, starting locally in your hometown is probably a good place, and go from there to see if there's other support groups, survivors of things like this. This is unfortunately not an uncommon problem. So starting there might be sort of like, I don't want to say Alcoholics Anonymous, but, there's a lot of support groups for people that are suffering from all kinds of afflictions. So if you have the resources to at least look into that, I would start that. But I agree with Melinda Sherwin. Get them home first, and then
Absolutely.
and then figure out, what your next steps are. Just the trauma of the whole thing alone is mind-boggling to me. Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. I'm just blown away by all this stuff that's going on. I had one more question for Red Pill. So
Please.
I am lucky that my dad and stepmom are Trump fans.
Sweet.
He, however, is not very into social media. And he, a lot of people aren't putting signs out. And of course, as you know, it can be a silent majority.
Yes.
And if he's an older man and he has some health problems, and when I talk to him, he always wants to know why I'm so sure that Trump is going to win. And is there a video or something that's really, I've given him out of the shadows. He's not, he thinks conspiracy theories kind of and worries about that. But, I wish there was, some way to talk to people that aren't really on Twitter, because Fox News is his, that's his 24/7.
Honestly, tell him to tune into the channel. I mean, we're dishing out hope on a daily basis here, and not just that, but evidence to the fact that we do have a silent majority here. Point back to 2016. Every single mainstream media outlet was 100% certain that Donald Trump was going to get crushed by Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
If they thought Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump, honestly, do they think Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump? No. And just take a look at everything President Trump has done over the last 3.5 years. We started the country off one way, and President Trump has slowly moved the needle, okay? It's just gotten better and better and better, and the only bad things that have happened have been started by outside influences, or it's been by the Democrats trying to, stop any progress that he's made. More people are in a better position now than they were when President Trump took office, and I think that all of us know that if President Trump gets another 4 years in office, that's going to grow exponentially. Tell him to tune into the channel so that he can see how many people are here pro-Trump, pro-America, pro the Make America First agenda. I can understand his position. If he's, in a lonely, precarious social position, he's just hanging out at home. He's only watching mainstream media outlets.
But yeah, he's a Fox News, but they're really on the virus a lot. So
exactly.
He's worried that Trump didn't handle the virus the right way or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, definitely tell him to tune into the channel. Maybe he can, watch some of the shows and, let him know I make shows 7 days a week. So there's always something for him to watch.
And I definitely will with this one because I'm talking to you. So I will definitely do that. So
Dad, I was on the Red Pill show.
I know exactly, right? Thank you so much for taking my call.
Jennifer, one last question or comment I want to put in here before you go. Melinda Sherwin, thank you so much. I'm monitoring the chat here. She says, and she's right about this, CPS uses drug restraints on foster kids. They need the family that when the kids go home to be weaned off the adult psychotropics that CPS's malpracticing doctors place these little children on. Mm-hmm. And it's true. In fact, Neil had mentioned that he thought one of his children was put on something.
Is there a go-between? Like, are there people like me that can go, to CPS and try to I don't have a psychology degree. I have an economics degree, but I don't know. How do you finagle your way into that?
There are what's called guardian ad litems.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay, but here's the problem. And a lot of guardian ad litems are great and wonderful people. But the problem in CPS is there's so much money coming out of the federal government and the state governments that's funding the ability to be a foster parent, allowing these kids to never actually be fully adopted because foster families get paid a lot. And if the child they're fostering has special needs, it's a lot more money. But you get this circle of influence between psychologists, psychiatrists, guardian ad litems, the judicial system, and these family courts don't have a jury of your peers. So if I'm the parent and I get accused of something egregious to my child, and the CPS steps in and takes my kids away, it's now my word against CPS and their social workers and the judge that sees that CPS social worker in court every day, multiple times a day.
Right.
And there's a relationship that gets built between all these people, and it's a lot of money we're talking about. So therein lies the corruption. If there's nobody as a jury of my peers, it's not a court of equities where I can go and have my peers hear me. It's my word against theirs, and they're all friends because they know each other.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
You see how it's totally corrupted, and
no,
that's
it is.
the
They're
problem.
gonna have to restructure that, just like the clowns in America and all the rest of those.
The whole mess. The whole mess. Exactly.
So much needs to be undone. All right, Jennifer, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Tell your dad to tune in.
I will definitely do that. You guys have a great evening.
All right,
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay.
You too.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
All right. Also, Ann, I don't know if you've seen this, but several times in the chat, Swiss Talia has said, I'm from Bern, Switzerland. How can I help? I know Telegram channels in Switzerland, Red Pill people. We can organize a demonstration. Would you like to give them any specific information to get a hold of you or to reach out?
Actually, I've now given that information. I've been copying and pasting Swiss Talia's messages in Telegram to Neil. Swiss Talia, if you want my email address, and this is for anybody, you can send an email to tips, TIPS, at steeltruth.com. Or you can send it to steeltruth@protonmail.com. But tips at Steel Truth, if you have tips, I really like them to go there. And once we vet them out, then we move over to Proton Mail, and we keep it going over there. But new things, I'd like to go into the tips account if possible. Send me anything like that. I'll make sure Neil gets it. And if you have contacts over there, we're open to anything and everything. Neil has, will continue to exhaust every avenue until he gets his kids back. And I can guarantee you, if it's now or in 10 years from now, God forbid, he will keep fighting every single day. I know this man, he's not giving up. And, frankly, neither am I. And nobody should, because this could happen to anybody in this chat room right now. This could happen to you.
Yeah.
Kids go missing around the world all the time. This is not uncommon.
All right. We've got our next caller on the line. Can we get your name for the audience?
Hi, this is David.
Hi, David. How are you?
Doing good. Hey, I just want to come on here. I've been listening to you actually since, I think earlier this year, you had a thing in the hospital and you had a show right after that. And I've been hooked since. And I really appreciate all you guys, you and Methods. And I just wanted to also just encourage you guys. Like, I love seeing the humility. I love seeing you guys like operating in what God's gifted you in, and yet totally giving it back to Him. And I'm excited to be in this fight with you guys. And yeah, that's kind of what I called in to say.
Well,
that's beautiful.
Let me tell you just how much I appreciate that. That was an unfortunate incident. I'm glad that that's what pulled you in, though, because you saw me at my most vulnerable. But every day, I feel called to do this. It's an honor to be able to help bring this information to so many people. And, the fact that I have, one person at all that wants to tune in and help me spread this information, man, it's an honor and a privilege. So thank you so much for calling in and letting me know. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And can I share a quick story of just one time when I was listening to you?
Go ahead.
I'm a contractor, so I'm working on houses, on decks, and every time when quarantine came around, right at 2 p.m., that's what I was listening to. So it was hilarious because oftentimes there would be people on the work site with me, and you guys are just hilarious. You guys are, and I just start laughing to myself, and then they'd be looking over at me like, I'm like, it's Red Pill, it's Red Pill. And even my wife knows when I have you on, I'll have you on the TV. She's like, oh, is that Red Pill again? I'm like, yep, Red Pill. So anyway, you guys are amazing. Even your guest, I'm sorry, I totally blanked on your name.
And Vandersteel.
What you are doing is amazing, and I am so excited to see not only Trump get back in, but let's bring these kids back into loving homes that they deserve. And
right.
Like you said, Red Pill, it makes me cry to think of what some of these kids go through. But we are literally, the gates of hell will not stand against our ability to bring these kids back into life that I know God just has for them. And I know there's almost like a special grace, some people who desire to see that happen. Anyway, I'm done ranting.
Awesome,
but I really appreciate all you guys.
Well, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for calling in.
Have a great
Absolutely.
night.
All right. Have a
You
great
too.
night.
See you tomorrow night. All right.
Bless.
Take
We'll
it
see
easy.
ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, awesome. Let me say thank you to Tim Vincent. Tim Vincent on Cash App. I appreciate you, buddy. Gino says, is CPS accountable to any government agencies? This is a question I've kind of gotten a couple times in the past. CPS seems to be almost like an extra governmental organization. I mean, it is within the government, but it's like administered privately in a certain way.
It really functions like that because you don't see anywhere where you can go and get them held accountable. Anytime you try to go and do something that would hold them accountable, they seem to be able to circumvent the system. In fact, I know Melinda Sherwin, I keep pointing to her because she's been so instrumental in several cases. And there's other people I could talk about. I don't want to put them on blast because I don't see them in the chat room. But, they have actually had to go and circumvent some of the issues that they've been challenged with for some of their cases that they've picked up and gone over and above CPS to get actual action done. Why is that? Why is it they're allowed? But then again, why was their DOJ allowed to function the way it was? Why was the FBI allowed to function the way it was? Why was the IRS allowed to function the way it was? Why has so much in our government been allowed to function outside the actual jurisdiction in which it's supposed to be? Look at this, our intelligence agencies. This is a rampant problem. Again, CPS is so serious because we're involving minors and children. But if you look at all the agencies we have, name one that actually stays in the confines and operates within its actual charter. They're not that hasn't been infiltrated and corrupted and weaponized and politicized.
Very
They
true.
all have been. They all have been. That's just unfortunate. In this case, children are the ones that suffer, and the families are the ones that suffer. So, it's one thing to have pain in your wallet. It's another thing to have pain in your heart. They're totally different.
Yeah. Hey Jude says, Proton Mail is located in Switzerland. Any concerns? No, because due to the fact that they're located in Switzerland, that offers me a layer of protection in case somebody who's a source sends me things. Then it's the servers are outside of the United States and they can't get to them. All right, we've got Jason Blocker on the line. Jason, we just need to get your microphone turned on while we're waiting on that. Let me just see if I need to give any thank yous through PayPal. And looks like I am caught up. Actually,
Nice.
Floyd Stander for the fourth. What's up, buddy? He says, wow, this has been a crazy birthday for me. Happy birthday, Floyd. That's awesome.
Happy birthday, Floyd. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And now I want to help give Neil help by calling and messaging anyone I can to get things moving to get his kid back. Much love, Red Pill and Vandersteel. Thank you, Floyd. Let me know if you get any progress on that. I'd love to stay abreast of that situation. Once again, Floyd, thank you for that. Let's see. Michael Kenny says, I'm not going to call in, but you can convey my most sincere thank you to Anne for what she's doing and risking. Really want to give her a hug for all this. That's right. This is a difficult subject for people, to even learn about, let alone cover. I mean, when you're deeply involved in it to the level that you are, this has got to be a thing that sticks with you. I mean, I know that this is going to stick with me after the show. Jason, are you there, bud?
Am I there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Sweet. Yes.
Awesome.
I swear, every time I call, it's like a different way of getting the audio working or whatever. But
yeah.
how's it going?
Pretty good, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm good. Yeah, I called in on Don Jeffries too.
I remember.
Is that his name?
Donald
all right,
Jeffries.
Cool.
Yep. He's going to be back
Donald
soon.
Jeffries.
So
okay. Yeah, he's cool. So yeah, I kind of came in late and I rewound and then I went back forward, so I missed quite a bit. But I was gonna say, as far as the Switzerland, I believe my mom, because I was Mormon till I was 15, so 20 years ago, and same with my immediate family, and my mom knows, she's totally blue-pilled or whatever. She's totally, but she does know, like, well, let me back up. So is it the reorganized church? Because I saw someone in the chat earlier say it was the reorganized LDS church that this Creamer family and stuff is part of, versus the actual LDS church.
Yeah, and there's a couple of different sects, I mean...
To be honest, I am not a Mormon church aficionado, so I really am not the person to ask, but I can certainly text Neil. I know I've been going back and forth with him right now, so I will certainly ask him. He would know the answers to all of that. In fact, he might even jump on. If you want him to jump on, Red Pill, we might be able to get him. I don't know.
Well,
he stopped.
Yeah. We've got... I was just going to say, we've got 10 more minutes, so yeah, I mean... if we can get him to jump on the phone, that would be great. I would love to finish the show with him if he's up for that.
Sure. Let me just see.
Well, so Jason, what do you think the significance is? I mean, is it? I mean, if it's one sect over another sect, does that make a difference in terms of how this is playing out?
Well, the main one is huge. It's the Mormon Church. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 100 times bigger than like the next biggest one, which is, I'm guessing, the Reorganized Church. You know, it's a huge. I mean, you know, tens of millions of members versus the Reorganized Church. I don't know if they have 1 million or less members, probably less, much less. But either way, my mom knows, like through Facebook, the highest level Mormon who left the Mormon Church, and he's from Switzerland, I believe. It might be Sweden. I always get those two countries mixed up.
Okay.
I believe he was part of the quorum of the 70, so he was in the top, basically 70 people of the Mormon Church. And he left the church, and he was like, it was a big deal because he's the biggest, highest level person to actually leave Mormonism. Mm-hmm. And so that's how they became friends on some kind of like ex-Mormon. By the way, you know, not hating on any Mormons. All of my extended family's Mormon, both sides. I love the Mormon people. You know, like any church, though, like the Catholic Church, Catholics are not the Pope.
Right. They're
and I'm not even
responsible
saying, I don't
for
know.
the actions. Yeah.
Right. And I have no idea, to be honest, like as far as the prophet and how that, I'm sure there's corruption. I don't know to what extent. I don't know anything. I personally no longer believe in the church. But anyways, by the way, Mormons just call it the church. It's just the church.
Oh, because it's the church. It's the only church. Right?
It's the church. Yeah, it's called the church. So she could reach out to him because I know you're looking for people that have hold sway. So that was one thing. And also my sister works for like FBI. I think it's a company that contracts with the FBI. Actually, I don't know what she does or what they do exactly, but I know it's FBI. It's like ex-FBI agent is who she works with or works for, and they contract and do work with and for the FBI. So, yeah. Other than that, I just wanted to call and say hi, and you know, I love you. I love what you do. I mean, not in a gay way.
Would you do me a favor?
No Cuomo.
Yeah.
Would you
I'll
do
do
me
you
a favor?
favor.
Send me that information to tips, TIPS, that's Steel Truth, STEEL, steeltruth.com. That would be so appreciated. And anybody that has information that could be of help to this would be so appreciated, particularly if you have a relationship with somebody that can help the situation. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but I'll find out and I'll get you all the information that I can get.
Amazing. See, this is why this is so important. Red Pill, thank you so much for allowing this story to get this level of coverage, because it's going to make a difference. Really appreciate it.
I sure hope it does. All right, Jason, send that information off, brother. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Love you,
all right,
buddy.
brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.
Appreciate the call. All right, good stuff. All right, guys.
Best audience, Red Pill. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I hope that I really hope that this makes a difference. Because, like I said, it's just it's a horrible situation for Neil to be in, and it's an even worse situation for his kids to be in. Let's see. I'm hoping that Whitehead is going to have an opportunity to listen to this, and that he will go ahead and make a call for us as well. Let's see. Swiss Talia is commenting again. The owner of the YouTube channel Chats Frats has personal knowledge about Swiss CPS and how hard it is to get children back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like it's definitely an issue all around.
Swiss Talia, anything you have, send it to tips@steeltruth.com. Would be awesome. Please, by all means, connect with me over there.
Tips@steeltruth.com.
Things like that, because
all right, Lady Be Good, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and mute the stream in the background, but how are you tonight?
I'm good. It's nice to be back.
Yes, glad to have you here. What's your question or comment for Ann?
Well, question and comment. Well, mostly that I've been through something similar to this, and a lot of people don't understand what a crazy place anything having to do with family court is. Common sense does not even enter in. I'm sure Ann can understand that.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, you can talk to your friends and they'll be like, well, we don't understand it. It's like, why doesn't the judge say this? Or why doesn't your lawyer do this? It's like, because everything that happens in outside real life, that's normal and good and makes sense, does not happen at all once you get into the realm of guardian ad litems. And
that's right.
It's boggling. And, when you literally have, family court is not criminal court, and people confuse that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are no laws that have any tooth to them to enforce anything, except for maybe collecting child support. But
that's right.
I mean, when I look at the job that you've got ahead of you, Ann, I don't even know what laws you're going to even try to use to get those kids, because...
Well, hopefully the Americans have every right to step in and get those kids and get them back. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to really just get the message to Pompeo and Barr and President Trump, for that matter, or Vice President, somebody high up in the administration that could make the phone call. It's not complicated at this point. It's simply a phone call. And by the way, Neil Suits is on the line. He says he's the 12th caller on the line. So
what is his
what's
name?
What's your handle, Neil? Neil, what's your handle? He's texting
or is it
me
just
on
a
Telegram.
phone number? I see there's a couple of phone numbers, and then there's a couple of
41 number. Do you see a 41 number?
417?
Yeah, it's like a 041 number. Yeah.
Do you know the last 4 digits of the number?
2466. Yeah, that's it. 417.
417. Okay, we're going to go ahead and bring Neil in here.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. See you later.
Oh, Lady Be Good, thank you for your call.
Thank you, Lady
I appreciate
Be Good.
it.
Really appreciate it.
All right, have a good night.
You
All
too.
right, so excellent way to end the show. Waiting for Neil. Are you there, sir?
I am here. Glad
Hey,
I got
Neil.
through, and thank you so much for allowing me to come on. Hi, Ann.
Of course. Neil, thank you for your for being willing to call in tonight. I just want to let you know that both myself and my audience, we really are going to be praying for you on this. I mean, this is just an impossible situation, and I want to let you know how much I respect you, and the fact that you've been able to stick together with this. I think this would tear a lot of people apart from day one.
Well, I appreciate that more than I can tell you, and I appreciate even being able to have a couple of moments to say something, especially on a night that is tonight is the 3-year anniversary of the day that my sons were kidnapped by the Swiss government.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just make, if I may, just one statement.
Please.
Call it a clarification statement for everybody, so everybody understands beyond all the very apparently confusing facts of the story in general, because it's very hard to understand that it appears on the surface to be a CPS case. And yeah, it's international, and yeah, my kids are being molested, and yeah, the government's sanctioning it. Very important to know a couple points. It's not just that the U.S. Embassy in Switzerland is not helping me and my family. Brianna Powers, the chief consul, Jeremiah Sturck, the U.S. consul, and the senior assistant, Crystal Monaco, were sued for taking away my constitutional rights because they organized all of this with Robert Grant Bradford and the Mormon Church and their family. That was what was documented in the beginning. My life's been threatened 6 times. 6 weeks ago, it was threatened on Twitter with a meme showing a guy getting his throat cut. And I want to clarify that under no circumstances, for anybody that does want to help in a position of power, can my case or should my case ever be transferred back to the United States of America to be handled as an American case. The only interactions I've ever had with CPS in the United States were the false accusation that Ann spoke about earlier in the interview and the receiving of my level 1 fingerprint clearance card. And to clarify what that meant is that there are no investigations going on. There are no charges against me. It all started here. And that's what the issue is. It's a very complex case to understand, but that is the pinnacle point. In the beginning of this case, they tried to get my kids back to the States to give them to CPS so they could then go back to my ex-wife's family, Robert Bradford, etc., the church. And now, 3 years later, it's appearing that, okay, it's an American issue, maybe it should be handled by the Americans. a lot of Americans are and have been involved in this, and it would be their dream, the people that have done this, to get my kids back to the States. And as outrageous, as lunatic-like as a statement like that might sound, I have provided specific, detailed documentation to those who are trying to help, because the question came up, wouldn't it be good if we could just get you guys back to the States and let this be handled by the authorities there? There was never a case in America against me except a false charge in 2012. We came here to Switzerland, my ex-wife and I, to protect our sons from ever being subject to the satanic pedophilia and child trafficking ring that's being run out of Arizona, that's being hidden by Governor Ducey, that's being hidden by the people that run that RICO state. And this was a setup from the beginning. And I know that sounds like a very intense, extreme thing to say, again, like the whole story in general, apparently unbelievable, like a James Bond movie. My kids are being used as political pawns, and the reason this happened is because Robert Grant Bradford, my ex-father-in-law, who is one of the most powerful men in the Mormon church, was found on a video molesting my nephew, Austin. He's the same man in 2002 that tried to assassinate Sheriff Joe Arpaio and ex-Governor Hall in Arizona and skated on that too. The Mormon church and the people that run it are my ex-family-in-law. If you turn against them, for instance, trying to turn them into the international authorities for molesting a Mormon church and the people that run it, your nephew, are my ex-family-in-law. If you turn against them in a child porn video, they're not Christians. They believe in vengeance. It's not about getting the kids back, it's about making an example of somebody that turned against the church. So I am imploring anybody that wants to make a call for my family to help get my sons, Skylar and Corey, back to me. It needs to be clear. The evidence is in the hands of people that are trying to get this done. This can never be brought back to the United States. My kids need to be given back to me here so I can safely take my sons, Skylar and Corey, with myself, alone, unconditionally, and go somewhere safe on the planet where their daddy doesn't need to have death threats against him. And have the U.S. ambassador, people at the Department of State, Lance Wickman, who's the general counsel of the Mormon Church, and the most powerful family in Arizona that has everybody in their pocket, ever near us, ever again.
Well, Neil, I can tell you that the majority of my audience, if not every single person in the audience, is already working on reaching out to AG Bill Barr, working on reaching out to Secretary of State Pompeo, and we are going to light up the switchboards and do everything in our power to see if we can't push this forward and try to finally get some resolution to this. And if there's ever anything in the future that we can do for you, please, I'd like us to stay in contact. I have followed you on Twitter, and obviously we have connection with Ann, and we can work out contact information after the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm extremely, extremely grateful to you, Ann. You know me, as far as you can know me, with all my gratitude, and you know what's going on today. I'm in hiding today again because of more threats against me. The thing seems unreal. Obviously, you've seen everything. You've seen papers, you've seen audio, video, and a lot of other people have. I'm so grateful that you've been so courageous to take this to this level.
Neil,
Red Pill has the courage to have you on.
That's it. And that's who you work with. We work with people like this that want to help. It comes out of love, really. More than anything else. I don't see it as courageous as I see it as love of a fellow human being, frankly, and knowing that somebody's being done something wrong to. You've been treated unjustly, your family's been treated horrifically, and you got to right those wrongs. That's what it's about. That's where it begins and ends with me, fixing the wrongs.
Well, I am and always will be grateful to you. And, for yourself. And I mean, you've heard me say it before because, you know, you're one of the people that got the documents because the question came up, can't we just get the kids back to the States? And okay, Neil, proved there was never a CPS case. So proved it, got it to you, got it to the right hands, got it to other hands. But I know this is a scary thing for a lot of people. And that's not, you know, not scary for you. And that's what has carried this so far. And it's not scary for you, Red Pill. And it's not scary for Jim White and Brian Shohavi, for people that have had themselves threatened and had different factions of George Soros's companies go after their journalistic outlets just for talking about this case. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to everybody. I'm grateful to America. What's been going on in the last 48 to 72 hours on social media, it's already been on social media. I sit in literal like tears of joy because I can feel the love that I'm trying to somehow transmit to my children, because these two little boys don't even know what the whole world is rising up to do to try to save them, to get them back to me. And I'm just grateful, more grateful than I can ever say, because it's not just about my family and me and Corey and Skylar. Yeah, this is a very complex, peculiar case. And any child in America, in Switzerland, because this is happening all over the world, and any parent that has ever been in the situation of being wrongly accused, wrongly persecuted, as all the parents are in these kinds of cases, and children that are used as pawns and money from the federal government, from America, to go to a state that's misappropriated by the state. Everybody is the same. One child represents a million. And I just know that when my sons, and I have more faith in God and Jesus now than I've ever had in my entire life, on this day, when my sons are given back to me unconditionally in my arms so I can heal them for the rest of their lives for what they've been through, my dedication in my life for the people around me who know me is to make sure that I use what I've learned, I use the contacts that I've made, and I remain an advocate to make sure that the system must change. It has to change in America. It has to change in Switzerland. It has to change in the Netherlands, where that family had to take their autistic son and run to Poland and beg the Polish leaders for asylum. It's the same everywhere. The only difference is the language people speak in the countries.
That's right.
Yeah.
So God bless everybody for their support.
Yeah.
Well,
we love you, Neil, and your boys.
Once again, thank you very much for calling in, Neil. And I'd please everybody in the audience, lift Neil and his children up in prayer. Once again, Neil, thank you for having the courage to call in and for having the courage to continue on with this fight. I know the pain that you're going through because I'm a father myself, and I can only imagine what it's like on a daily basis. So. We have to close the show. I'm already going into somebody else's time slot. So, Neil, thank you for joining us. And is there anything that you want to leave the audience with before we go?
Continuation of great gratitude for my prayers, and please take the lead that has been brought forth tonight by Ann, by Red Pill. And America, we need to do more, and we can do more as American citizens. We do the best we can on social media, but pick up your phones and call and make the demands and realize that the power is truly in the hands of the people. And if the leftist socialist idiots that are burning down America that don't realize how lucky they are to live in a land that's a democracy, can burn down America, they can pick up their phone, they can make a demand, and I'm not just making it about me and Corey and Skylar. They can make that demand, but they can make the same kinds of demands to get things changed in America. Because I can tell you one thing, and briefly, anybody in America that thinks they know what socialism is has no idea until they live in a country that's the richest, most beautiful country where everybody takes their vacations to, that America gives $350 billion a year to. That's Switzerland, folks. This is real socialism, and it's really scary. And Trump has to keep the White House. We cannot absolutely, under any circumstances, let Biden or any Democrat ever take it if we want to keep America.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And everybody, if you want to follow Neil on Twitter, it's at Swiss, 4, Trump now. So definitely go give him a follow, and then you can directly stay abreast of what's going on with this case. Neil, thank you so much, sir, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Great. Well,
right.
White Hat made it in. Everyone's talking about it, so I'm hoping that he can get this information and do what he needs to do. It would be great.
You guys, I understand everybody wants me to keep going, but I've got the dogs scratching at the door. They know what time it is. They know that it's time for me to take them for a walk. And other people have shows that they're scheduled to do at 11 o'clock. So, Ann, thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing the show to us. Give everybody another rundown of where they can go to follow you and to find your work.
Sure. I'm personally at Ann Vandersteel on Twitter. And then you can follow me on my website as well, steeltruth.com. Red Pill, really so appreciative, so grateful. Much love to you and to your audience for allowing me to bring the story to a bigger audience and get attention shined on it. I'm really hopeful that we can get something to happen here in a positive fashion for the Suits family.
Absolutely. I'm going to be working on this weekend, guys. I want to get an update from everybody by Monday because obviously those agencies are going to be closed this weekend. So let's have a concerted effort. I'm going to go ahead and retweet it. I'm going to be putting an announcement out here on the community section on YouTube. We're going to make sure that people start to listen because we got to bring these kids home. And thank you for bringing the story to me. We'll stay in contact and hopefully we can get an update on this directly from Neil in the future. Maybe have him be a larger part of the conversation next time.
Great. Wonderful. Right. God bless you so much. Thank you.
God bless you as well, and thank you very much to the audience for being here tonight. Thank you to everybody who did like and share. 2,700 people still here, 2,300 likes. Please leave a like on your way out the door. Thank you to the mods for keeping the chat comfy, and thank you to everybody who did donate, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I'll be back at 7 p.m. with Methods for Comfy Sunday. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.